Beautiful people, so these are the keys to victory for the pride of Guadalajara, Jalisco, Mexico, the king of the 168-pound division, the undisputed super middleweight champion of the world, Saul Canelo Alvarez. When we talk about this incredible fight versus Bud Crawford, these are some of the main things that if you see Canelo doing, then you know that the man is on to something, and you know that the man is about to have a lot of success. Let's get into it, beautiful people. Now, key to victory number one, Canelo simply doing what he does best, being composed under the fire. The reason why Canelo got unbelievable defense, the reason why Canelo got unbelievable shot selection in the fight, and the reason why Canelo knows how to make the correct decisions inside the ring with his IQ is because the man is so calm. And when you are calm in the middle of the fire, in the middle of the storm, you see the punches coming, so you know how to roll with them. And on and on and on. So this is the main thing that Canelo Alvarez needs to do, and he's been doing it for the longest, and that is why the man keeps on finding success more times than not. Staying composed under the fire. Second thing is this, beautiful people. Feinting. Canelo Alvarez is probably the best feinter in boxing right now. And let me give you an example. Yes, a lot of boxers feint before throwing a punch. But when you talk about feinting, when you talk about Canelo Alvarez feinting, he feints with his eyes. He feints with his hips. He feints with his lead hand. He feints with his backhand. He feints with his feet, beautiful people. And when Canelo keeps on feinting, your alarm system, your nervous system is like this, reacting all the time, which fatigues you and zaps your energy. And if you actually look at the Billy Joe fight, for example, when he fought a southpaw, how did Canelo use his lead hand to keep on feinting to break down Billy Joe Saunders early? And I predicted Canelo Alvarez was going to stop Billy Joe in the 8th round with a right uppercut. And let me tell you how. Canelo kept feinting with his lead hand, feinting, going to the body. Feinting, going to the body. Feinting, going to the body. Throwing the occasional right here and there, but then feinting and going to the head. And that made Billy Joe aware of Canelo's power, and Billy Joe started to break down because of Canelo's left side. So what did Billy Joe do to avoid Canelo's power shots on his left side? He started dipping to Canelo's right side to avoid the power coming from Canelo's left side. And what did that open, beautiful people? That opened Canelo's brilliant and marvelous right uppercut, which closed the show, was the beginning of the end. And when Canelo Alvarez starts to find the timing of his right uppercut, what do you see him do? He starts to land his left uppercut, his lead uppercut. And that is what he did versus Munguia, if you actually think about it. If you go back and watch that fight, the moment that Canelo found success in the right uppercut, he started to find all the success in the world with the left uppercut. Regardless of he's fighting a southpaw or an orthodox fighter, once Canelo finds success with the right uppercut, the left is coming, and all the punches that produce all the hurt in the world are coming after, trust me. These are the main two things that Canelo uses to find all of his success. Now another key to victory for Saul Canelo Alvarez. He simply gotta show Terence Crawford what's up. He gotta gain his respect. Listen, Canelo's been telling Bud Crawford throughout the lead up, you will experience something that you have never experienced before. And Canelo needs to show that to Bud early. He needs to take Bud's confidence early and show Bud, because let's be honest, Canelo, he finds most of his success and he sets up most things in the first few rounds. Even though Canelo does like to take his time in the first and second round, depending on the opposition. Now, if you watch the Charlo fight, he took all the time in the world that he needed. Why? It's because simply Charlo fought like a coward. But when someone like Munguia pressed Canelo early, Canelo had to show him what's up early. And if you go back to that Billy Joe fight, Canelo pushed the pace early, but he didn't start throwing his punches early. But Canelo started to find ways to close the distance and to find ways to land his shot later on in the fight. Now, when I say that Canelo needs to start fast, I don't mean that Canelo needs to let his hands go early. But Canelo needs to press the action. And Canelo, when he presses the action, that doesn't mean that he needs to throw punches, but that means that he needs to start closing the distance early and start feinting early. And if you actually think about it, you know, Canelo, like, you can tell when he's fighting southpaws, you can tell that the man finds it awkward to let his hands go, especially early. And when Canelo fights orthodox fighters, you see him throwing more combinations while fighting orthodox fighters. But when he's fighting southpaws, he's more content in throwing 1 or 2 punches in a row. And that's actually smart because he's more wary of the counters coming from the southpaw. And more times than not, actually, when Canelo fights southpaws, like for example, like Crawford, I believe Crawford will fight this fight for the most part in the southpaw stance. I made a lot of videos explaining why. But also people like Lara and also people like Billy Joe is because they actually rely more on their lead hand. So Canelo needs to be careful. So Canelo needed to be careful with the counters coming from the lead and backhand of his southpaw opponents. And same thing goes for Bud. But that doesn't mean that he won't find success, but that means that it might take him just a bit more time. And if you actually think about it, most fighters find it awkward to land combinations on southpaws. And that is why I talked about the blind spot of a southpaw in a video that I made previously, which was, I believe, one of my best work. And I'll post a link for that video in the description. You can check it out and you will have a better understanding of what Canelo does versus southpaws. Another thing that Canelo needs to do, another key to victory for Canelo. When he's pressing up Bud against the ropes, he needs to be careful of Bud's uppercuts. You know that Bud likes to counter with the uppercuts to the body in the center of the ring, but when you press Bud up against the ropes, Bud looks to counter with the uppercuts, but to the head. But Canelo got such a good reaction time that more times than not, he slips punches while he's on the ropes and when he's in the center of the ring, but he's more vulnerable when he's pressing you against the ropes is because when he's pressing you against the ropes, he likes to let his hands go. So, which equals to him having less time to exit danger. Now, these are the main keys to victory for Saul Canelo Alvarez. I'm not gonna lie. When I made the video for the keys to victory for Bud, and when I was like bringing my thoughts and ideas together before I made this video, I'm gonna be honest, I found more keys to victory for Canelo based on the styles. Now, that doesn't mean that Bud's not gonna win. But what I'm saying is this: when Canelo fights his fight versus southpaws, he actually got a lot more paths to victory than what the experts might tell you, beautiful people. Like for example, Roy Jones. I saw a video of Roy Jones. He just came out and said this. He said that Canelo got 1 path to victory and Bud got 6 paths to victory. But I'm not too sure if I can agree with the legendary. Listen, much respect to Roy Jones. I mean, listen, who am I to question Roy Jones's IQ? But all I'm saying is this. All I can tell you is what my eyes see. And from all the tape that I have watched of Canelo Alvarez, I mean, I have watched literally every single, and I mean every single fight of Canelo Alvarez available on YouTube. And at the same time, every single fight of Bud that's available on YouTube. Multiple times, beautiful people. Now, both men, listen. I've said it once, I've said it twice, and I'll say it a countless million times. Both men are truly remarkable. And when we talk about the past victory for Canelo, let's not forget the essence of Canelo. And what is Canelo? Canelo is simply, in my opinion, the greatest pressure slash counter attacker when mixing both together in history, at least as far as my eyes ever saw. So this alone, being a pressure slash counter attacker, whether you're fighting a southpaw or an orthodox fighter, this will go in this fight. But the only difference is this: when he's fighting a southpaw like Bud, he will not let his hands go in combinations unless he hurts you or unless you break down. Then you will see Canelo letting his hands go punches and bunches. And if you only knew the details that Canelo sets up, and especially with him being an orthodox fighter and Bud being a southpaw, trust me, beautiful people, he will have a lot of openings, especially on Bud's right side, because he will have a blind spot. Because Bud likes to discipline you with that lead hand, with that violent stab to the body and the check hook. But when you start angling away from that and you become in firing range from his backhand, he lets go with his backhand. So you gotta pick your poison with Bud. But guess what? You also gotta pick your poison with Saul Canelo Alvarez, beautiful people. I mean, listen. All I gotta say is this. What an unbelievable fight. I don't think I have ever been this excited for a fight, just when you talk about the elite skill level colliding in the squared circle. Canelo does so many underrated things, and Bud also does so many underrated things. But when both men will surge into the center of the ring, and when both men start to get comfortable, which I'm assuming will be at the end of the second, end of the third, I promise you people, you will see boxing skills like you have never seen. Because it's been a long time since we've seen someone as skilled as Canelo going up against someone as skilled as Bud. And when you put two skilled elite boxing masters in a ring together, regardless of the weight, regardless of the size, regardless of the height, regardless of the reach, you will see fireworks. And only a true hardcore boxing fan will appreciate what we are about to witness Saturday. Now I'm telling you, I guarantee you this fight will be exciting. But even if the fight wasn't as exciting as you might have thought that it would be, you will find endless things to enjoy, and I guarantee you that. Mark my words, beautiful people. All I gotta say is this: bring on September 13, and please don't forget to tune in to my live watch along of this fight. Let's watch this fight together. Let's get shocked. Let's experience one of the greatest, highest level fights in the history of boxing. Forget this era. It doesn't get any higher than this, beautiful people. When you talk about the skill, when you talk about the IQ, when you talk about the execution of game planning, when you talk about one making a mistake and paying for it severely. What more can I say, beautiful people? What more can I say? What an unbelievable fight. And bring on this colossal, massive, once in a lifetime showdown live on Netflix this Saturday. The undisputed, every single belt in boxing on the line. Bragging rights. First fight ever in Allegiant Stadium. Las Vegas. Riyadh season. It's gonna be a night to remember. It's gonna be one of the most memorable nights in the history of boxing. When you talk about the undercard, when you talk about the theme of the show, when you talk about the occasion, when you talk about the screaming fans, when you talk about the stadium, and most importantly, when you talk about the two headliners, the two greatest fighters that my eyes ever saw, Canelo Alvarez, the greatest pressure slash counter attacker my eyes ever saw, versus the most dynamic fighter slash greatest switch hitter my eyes ever saw. Now, I'm not a boxing historian, but all I can tell you is what my eyes have seen so far. It does not get any better than this, beautiful people. Bring on Saturday night.